I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, and happy Halloween. Welcome to the Tales from Godric's Hollow podcast. This is episode 18, I believe. 18, that sounds right. We are recording this on Halloween evening, the death day of our dear friend, Sir Nearly Headless Nick. I don't even know if he's a sir. I'm probably just making that up at this point. Excuse me, I'm a little high on candy. It's Sugar Rush night, running around with kids. It's been an evening, so forgive me for this podcast, but hold on. It's gonna be something. I am the muggle of the show, Josh Brown. I am joined by the master of moody mandrakes, none other than Professor Matt Sonnenberg.
Oh, you definitely are stepping up your intro game again.
Hey, look, I promised it, and I had to deliver, Matt.
Well done.
I've also been thinking about it for about 6 straight hours, so that's the best that you're going to get.
I'll take it. And it fits very well for tonight's episode because, I will be talking about them quite a bit.
As we should.
But yes, for the record, it is, I believe, Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington or something like that.
Okay.
So yes, it regardless, it is a sir. He is a sir.
The sir popped in my head, but then I started to question myself whether or not I was making that up or if I'd actually read that.
Because then you switched over to like a Sir Nearly Headless Nick. I'm like, well,
right.
Okay, sure.
Only because I wasn't going to remember his proper name. That was a given.
Formal title with a nickname. Sure.
All I know is that he's not on the headless hunt, and he's probably celebrating his death day somewhere in a dungeon.
You got it.
Because that's what he does on Halloween Eve. It's a good night. It's a good night to be a ghost, Matt.
Yeah.
It's a good night to be talking about Harry Potter also.
Yeah, basically, it doesn't even have to be Halloween in Harry Potter world.
Mm-mm.
And it's just always appropriate, it feels.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess it's partly the witches and wizards thing going on, but...
Mm-hmm. Which is weird, because I was talking with Val about this earlier. We were talking about, like, Harry Potter costumes and whatnot, and I felt very disappointed in myself that I passed up my first opportunity to dress up in something Harry Potter related. I think next year I'm going full Hagrid.
I think you should.
That makes sense. But we're talking about, I was like, this is Halloween, we're reading Harry Potter, we're going to be talking about Harry Potter, this is just all lining up perfectly. And she looked at me and she goes, I always kind of just picture Harry Potter and associate it with Christmas.
Well, that I blame that on TV. Because they always, when in like ABC Family,
okay, for
the longest time, I think they basically had an exclusive contract for the Harry Potter movies. And they would include at least one of them in their like 25 Days of Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, because she mentioned around Christmas time she likes to snuggle up and just marathon through all the Harry Potter movies. And I said,
yeah, and I mean,
that's the weirdest thing.
Pretty much since they go through the entire year in every book, in every movie has a winter scene. It has a Christmas scene, basically. And that's just, if they focus their advertising on that portion of it, they can get away with it. But in reality, it's not the whole book. It doesn't take place around Christmas or anything.
No.
The whole movie doesn't. In some, there are longer periods that we spend in the wintertime when there's snow on the ground. But, yeah.
I mean, just in my knowledge, just from these two books, I'm like, well, I mean, Christmas was a thing, but not like a big thing. I feel like the Death Day celebration on Halloween this year was bigger than anything they've done on Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely blame that on TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
TV ruining a good thing once again.
Hey, giving people another excuse to watch Harry Potter is not necessarily a bad thing.
Sure. I just, you start getting into that territory of people that will defend Die Hard as the best Christmas movie of all time. And it's like, just one step away from going that route with tying Harry Potter to Christmas time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're normally, I agree when people say that, just because I do enjoy Die Hard.
Sure, who doesn't?
Yeah, if you're going to include Harry Potter in that list, I put Harry Potter first.
Right.
So
okay, well, fair enough. I mean, I'm more of a Gremlins guy, but say la vie. I tweeted earlier today, for those listeners out there who may have caught it on Twitter, that I was mad at you today, Matt.
Yeah.
It's not often that I text you in the middle of reading.
It's true.
To describe how upset I am.
Very true.
And I wasn't necessarily upset at you per se, but I need someone to blame, because once again, the cliffhanger that you just continuously leave me hanging on is gut-wrenching.
Sure.
Most recently, we've had a lot of people write in and share their thoughts and suggest that we do 2 episodes a week to satiate my desire to intake more Harry Potter in a quicker, timely fashion. Thank you all for the suggestions. Really do appreciate your input. I don't know if I have the time in my schedule to doing a full another show of Harry Potter per week. The only way I could see it doing would be to separate the podcast and do 1 chapter per podcast and still do 2 podcasts a week. But at that point, we're not going any faster with the book. I do desperately want to get through this book. But even on this cliffhanger, Matt, you'd still be leaving me hanging for a couple days until I've read it again.
Yep. Very true.
A couple days or 7, it's not that big of a difference in my head. It's still painful.
Yeah.
The only way would just be to read through the whole book at once. And trust me, today was tough to resist that.
I know. I've been looking forward to these last couple chapters for a while now, and I keep looking at where I'm cutting you off, and it's it's going to be a good couple of weeks here.
Painful is what it is, Matt. I was reading on my lunch break, and I honestly had the thought of, do I go back to work, or do I take the rest of the day off so I could finish this freaking book? Because it wasn't even we read and then I turned around and started recording this podcast. It was read, went back to work for a few hours and had to think about it, a man in my own thoughts, and then go out and celebrate Halloween and see everybody in their costumes and nonstop thinking about recording this episode. And at least talking about it makes me feel a little bit better, and it usually helps me get through the week. But with this several hour-long gap that I had today between reading and podcasting, I don't know, man. It was... I
can imagine. I know how you usually are. Right after you read, you have all these things you want to talk about, and now today you read too early and you had to put it off.
Yeah. It's my own fault. I have to keep admitting that all of this is my own fault. It's my own doing, for better or for worse. But this podcast tonight, Matt, based on chapters 13 and 14 of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, this is going to be an emotional roller coaster unlike one we've had since maybe the finale of the first book.
I believe it.
Sad. It was upsetting. It was frustrating. It was hilarious at times. It was entertaining. It was sad. Did I say sad? Because some of it was kind of sad, Matt.
Yep. I figured you might start reacting this way, I guess, to some that's the other thing I get to do this time through the book is not only am I reading it, looking very closely at it, analyzing it, but then I'm also looking at it and thinking, how is Josh going to react to this? And it's so good.
Yeah, well, there's some upsetting things that happen, and I wasn't ready for the feels that happened in these chapters.
Sure.
I wasn't ready. I got chills, and there was a time when I was like, I'm emotionally not able to handle this right now. I don't know why this is a case, but I just incredible. So many things, Matt.
Yep. Which probably means we should get into it.
Yes. Also, I need to point out that the other reason I was mad at you is because as we get further into these books, I just realize how much stuff you're not actually telling me about anything.
Sure.
And you'll just let me ramble on about things.
Yep.
And I start going back to previous conversations, and I'm like, how did that man not say anything when I was just ranting and raving about something? And you're just sitting there over there quiet, just let me talk. And you don't stop me, you don't interrupt me, you don't try to educate me in any way, shape, or form. And some things, I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
Well, I know I've said at least once before, and it's a very good thing. This is an audio-only podcast, and we don't have a visual contact with each other right now at all. Because it, like I said, it would be a lot more difficult for me to hold back any visual cues as well.
Sure.
Because a lot of times I'm sitting back here, I'm listening to you, I'm leaning back from the mic, I'm just like I've literally like bit my own thumb just to stop from like laughing or something.
Okay, well, here's what we're gonna do. Next week is like the pre-finale. It's like the setup to the finale. We need to do it on video because I need to read your body language because I feel like there's going to be some things happening next week that I'm not going to be able to wait for the finale for.
Well,
you'll never agree to it. I know you won't.
It's probably better that we don't. I mean, I could probably put it on a pretty good act for you. I've been known to have a pretty good poker face.
Yeah.
I've won a lot of staring contests in my day.
I'm worried about next week. I'm definitely worried about next week. If this week is good week. Any indication, whew, boy, next week, I don't know. Let's go ahead and recap last week's action.
Let's go for it.
Last week we read chapters 11 and 12. Chapter 11 was the Dueling Club. A lot of little things happened. Looking back, it's easy to kind of pass off a bunch of little things that happened because I'm just so giddy to talk about all the big things this week, So we got some crazy stuff going on in the beginning of the chapter that I kind of pointed out, but like it really started once the Dueling Club was announced. And we found out that Professor Hogwart was going to be the teacher of this dueling club. It was kind of like an extracurricular after-school activity type of thing. He somehow managed to blackmail his good friend Professor Snape into being his lovely assistant for this demonstration because that totally makes sense in the context of nothing. Hogwart tried to show the kids how the dueling club worked, how wizard dueling actually went down. He did a really bad job of it. Shocking, I know. Eventually it kind of turned into like this one-on-one battle between Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy, which kind of is expected at this point. Neither one of them have really participated in a wizard duel that I know of. Kind of seemed like it was the first time, but we also got to see how advanced they are in their spell casting, which, we've come a long way in a year and a half of teaching for those two kids. It just seems like yesterday when they didn't know what magic was. So they're kind of going back and forth. There was a tickling charm. I thought that was kind of cool. Then a snake was brought into the picture. And the snake was about to eat a poor Hufflepuff kid, like big scary snakes do. And Harry Potter saved him. He thought he just told him to go away and back off and whatnot. Turns out he is a parcel mouth. He speaks parcel tongue, which is the language of the snakes. So when he in his head was telling the snake, to not attack and go away and that kind of thing, he was actually speaking in this other language that nobody could really understand, and it kind of freaked everybody out. And all of a sudden we understood why he was able to talk to that boa constrictor from Colombia in the first book. Colombia? Brazil. So that's a trait of the Slytherin heritage. Salazar?
Yes.
Salazar Slytherin. The man who is responsible for creating the Slytherin house when Hogwarts was first built. He was a parcel tongue. And so now it's kind of like, well, is Harry related to him? Because not many people have this gift. This ability, if you will. I don't know if it's a gift yet. Kind of seems like a curse to me, but what do I know? People wondering if Harry is a dark wizard, because that's kind of what the Slytherin house breeds, is nothing but dark wizards. So it's kind of confusing around Hogwarts. Kids don't really know what to think of old Harry Potter. He was trying to do the right thing. He was saving a kid's life as far as he was concerned. But kind of scaring everybody now, especially with all the attacks happening and whatnot. And speaking of attacks, our dear friend, Sir Nearly Headless Nick, he became petrified. I don't know how. He's a ghost. Ghosts shouldn't be petrified. But he was. He had to be pushed away with a fan because that's how you carry a petrified ghost body, I suppose. We got another glimpse at some spiders in the mix. We don't really know what's going on there, but just the fact that spiders are around is enough to be worried. Let me tell you something. We got a reference to Lemon Drop, which is fantastic.
Your favorite?
My favorite. As Professor McGonagall was taking Harry Potter down to Dumbledore's bachelor pad. Overall, solid chapter. Liked it. Yep. Liked the dueling club stuff. It kind of raised more questions than answers, but that's how I feel these books are written. Just to frustrate me. Chapter 12 was the Polyjuice Potion chapter. We got to find out that Dumbledore has a pet phoenix. His name is...
You got it?
Fox. I was close. Fox the Phoenix. Which is pretty cool. I like it. We also got a Sorting Hat appearance. Harry tried to talk to the Sorting Hat, figure out, was he really supposed to be in Slytherin, or did the Sorting Hat make the right decision about putting him in Gryffindor house? Sorting Hat confirmed that, yes, there was a strong push that he would be a good fit in the Slytherin house, but alas, he does belong in House Gryffindor, which Harry was delighted to hear. Dumbledore is trying to get some information out of him. Harry didn't really want to talk. Understandable. You know, he feels like he should be telling Dumbledore some things right now, but he also kind of doesn't want to because I think he's afraid. He's scared. He doesn't really know what's going on. And he also has this weird tendency to want to figure things out for himself. You know,
Sure.
He gets this rush of playing detective, and I think that's partially Ron's fault, to be honest. It's the Weasley kid mentality of, you know, fend for yourself and whatever you need to get done, do it for yourself type of mentality. Let's see, what else was going on? Oh, the Polyjuice potion. The kids finally got to that.
It's true.
The Polyjuice potion was ready to go. They drank it. Harry and Ron disguise themselves as... Boy, what are their names? Crab and Goyle.
There you go.
There we go. For some reason, Newt was standing out in my head, and I'm on autopilot until Fantastic Beasts comes out, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're under 3 weeks. Don't worry.
We gotta talk about that in a second. But Newt and Goyle, so not Newt and Goyle, God, Crab and Goyle. So they were.
Hey! In your defense, they're both creatures.
Yes, that's true. He kind of looks like a Newt. Let's be real here. So they disguise themselves for an hour as Crab and Goyle so they can hang out with Draco Malfoy, try to get some information on whether or not Draco was the heir of Slytherin, like they suspected. Trying to see if he was the one opening the Chamber of Secrets. Turns out Draco doesn't know much. He knows that it was opened before, a while ago, but doesn't
50
know.
years.
50. Did they say implicitly 50 years then?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if, because obviously we get back to the 50 years in tonight's reading.
Yep.
I didn't know if he knew for sure it was 50 years ago.
Well, I should say I have it in my notes as 50 years. So.
Yeah, but you've also read these books 28 times, Matt.
And that's why I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
And Father won't tell me anything about the last time the chamber was opened either. Of course, it was 50 years ago, so it was before his time.
Okay. See, now that we have context for it, it's like, yeah, that was 50 years ago. But like at the time, it sounded like just one of those numbers you throw out, like an arbitrary, like I'm trying to indicate how long ago it was type of thing. And to a kid, 50 years is like an eternity. Mr. Weasley is in trouble. We learned from the newspaper with the Ministry of Wizardry?
Magic.
There we go.
Yep.
We got a mention of Azkaban. It's a wizard prison, apparently.
It's true.
Doesn't sound good at all. Got back. They were starting to turn back into Harry and Ron, so they went back to the out-of-order restroom, where Moaning Myrtle was in a good mood, which is very unusual for that crazy ghost. Turns out Hermione, who took the Polyjuice potion, never left the restroom because she accidentally turned herself into a cat.
Yep.
Whoops. And this, of course, delighted Moaning Myrtle, which is honestly the cutest thing in the world. Like, this poor ghost is just so emotional about everything, and she's just laughing hysterically about the thought of, or the sight of Hermione being a cat.
Yep.
Fantastic. And that's it. We left off thinking, okay, what's Hermione going to do? She's a cat. That's weird. I mean, she's still full size, but she just has fur on her face and whiskers and a cat tail.
Yep.
I mean, weird, but not really in the sense of everything else that's gone on. You know?
In this world, not so weird.
I think turning into a cat is like an average day.
Sure.
In the grand scheme of things, you know?
Yep.
But that led to tonight's reading, Matt.
It did.
Let's do it.
Tonight's reading, as I said, chapter 13, titled The Very Secret Diary. And once again, we do have a couple of new characters to talk about. The first one, yes, the first one is T.M. Riddle, who, as we go through the chapter, we learn stands for Tom Marvolo Riddle, which gives us his father and his grandfather, if you want to include them as mentions. So his father was Tom, his grandfather was Marvolo.
Yeah. That was written very weird. I had to reread it twice to really figure out, because we learned his full name, and then it's named after Tom after his father, and Marvolo after his... the way it was written was confusing. Yes,
it's that weird roundabout way she uses to explain things, like when she explained Quidditch in this book. Mm-hmm. It wasn't straight. It wasn't a straightforward description of this is how it's played. It was, here's a short explanation, here's another question, here's an explanation, here's a question, here's an explanation, here's a question. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of that she used that method again here, where Tom didn't just say, "Oh, this is my full name." It's like this. I was named this after my father, and this after my grandfather, and so this explains my name. And, so yeah, Tom Marvolo Riddle. His father, his grandfather, and then we also ran into Professor Dippet, who was a former headmaster.
Yes. I have some questions about Professor Dippet.
But that's all we have for new characters, so wherever you want to get started.
Well, I kind of want to get started because we were just talking about Moaning Myrtle. And it kind of starts off with Moaning Myrtle going from, at the end of the last chapter, she's in a great mood. Best mood we've ever seen her in, to her being the most overdramatic ghost in the history of Hogwarts. I say that because she was complaining about somebody throwing a book at her.
Yes.
Now, this whole scene, how it's described and everything, Ron and Harry were having a good time, mostly Ron, laughing about how, you can't throw a book at a ghost. It's just going to go right through them. And, they're joking about like how many points it would be if you threw it through her stomach or, through her head or whatever. The one thing I didn't really grasp about the scene as it was initially described until I had to sit there and think about it was she was hanging out in the U-trap.
Okay.
Of her favorite toilet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, how does somebody throw a book at her if she's in the U-trap? Did that mean like... So I'm thinking, like, is she, like, outside the toilet, like, hanging out, like, by the base of it? Like, what is she doing? And then it dawned on me, somebody was flushing it.
They're trying.
Right? Or, yeah, essentially. But, like, so was, like, the book in the water? Like, did somebody actually throw it at her? Or was it, like, just trying to be flushed? And that's what she considered to be somebody throwing it at her.
I think it was probably thrown into toilet. Like the best way I think about it is like, yeah, she kind of settles down in the U-bend down there, but maybe like her head was still sticking up in the bowl or something. And so when they come in and throw it into the toilet, it like went through her head.
Okay. Maybe it'll be more clear when I see it in the movie. If this is even in the movie. I don't know. The description of it was very strange because like I was like, well, if she's in the toilet, how is somebody throwing the book at her if they're trying to flush? This is so confusing.
Yeah.
Regardless, she was way over dramatic about the whole thing.
I mean, it's weird enough that she lives in a toilet. She haunts a toilet. I mean, come on. See, I think it's one of those you just roll with it.
Sure.
But I understand your concerns, definitely.
Yeah. She's just making a mess, flooding. She needs to relax a little bit.
Yes.
She needs a hug is what she needs, Matt.
Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to do.
Well, there's other ghosts can give ghost hugs, right? Maybe?
I think they'd still go through each other.
She needs a Death Day celebration. That's what she needs.
There you go.
It cheered up Nick up until the cool kids showed up and ruined his party. He was having a grand old time.
Sure.
So maybe that's what she needs.
Yeah.
Regardless, small little point, but it's just we went from Myrtle being in a great mood to Myrtle being just completely emotional breakdown again. And
yes.
We also got another reference to the slugs for the first time this chapter, and then we got another reference later on in the chapter.
Yep.
And each time it's described, Matt, I get that little just twitch in my stomach. Like, I don't want to read this anymore.
And that's one of those things that when I read through it, I don't think anything of it because that never bothered me so much. But now when I read through it, I think of you every time.
Oh, it's horrific. And I realized something in this chapter specifically. The phrase belching slugs might be the most disgusting phrase in the history of the English language. Belching slugs. Like that, there is nothing aesthetically pleasing about those two words side by side in one phrase describing a situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's not supposed to be pleasant. It's
how could you read that over and over? I don't want to see it in the movie, Matt, and this makes me very worried about reading this book again because I'm going to have to go through this entire experience all over. These are things I think about, Matt. I'm crazy.
Yeah, a little bit. But we love you for it.
I guess. You better. Belching slugs. God, that's gross. Anyway, those were my little things I wanted to point out first. Those had nothing to do with the story at all.
Not so much.
No.
So we had the book in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just love reading through Ron's warning about how dangerous books can be. Because his father in particular has dealt with some such books that people have bewitched or whatever. It's like, Dad told me there was one that burned your eyes out. And everyone who read Sonnets of a Sorcerer spoke in limericks for the rest of their lives. And some old witch in Bath had a book that you could never stop reading.
Yeah.
You just had to wander around with your nose in it, trying to do everything one-handed.
The first and three things do sound like punishments. Like, I feel like I could probably get through the rest of my life speaking in limerick if I had to.
Yeah.
That's not that bad. Especially if you can't control it, because then it's just second nature at that point, right?
Sure.
But having to walk around reading the same book for the rest of your life? Oh, boy. Also, would that carry over into, like, your ghost form?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, it also makes you wonder if you keep reading it, like, are you reading the same page over and over, or do the pages keep turning for you, or can you turn the pages? And what happens when you get to the end of the book? Then do you just read that page over and over, or do they keep coming up with new page? I mean, is it new content? Do you get DLC?
See, I see it as like Groundhog's Day. Like, you go to sleep and then like you wake up and it's back on page one. And you're like, oh,
okay,
this again, and it's probably long enough to where you can't read the whole thing in one day. And like, if you just got sick of it, you're like, I'm just going to go to bed early because it's the only time I'm not reading. And then you wake up and you're holding it and you're back on page one again. It'd be the worst.
Yeah, that'd be not so good.
Yeah. Books are scary.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you're reading this in a book.
It's
true.
She's
actively trying to tell you about all the horrible things that can happen while reading a book.
Hey, you don't want to stop reading, so. As long as you can keep moving forward, right?
I guess. But, like, if I had to keep reading the chapter about the slugs over and over again, like, that's a game changer right there.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I mean, I appreciate that Ron was trying to, like, warn Harry, but it's like, of all the things that's going on in this crazy school for wizards and witches, this is the stopping point for grabbing a book. Just randomly grabbing a book, Ron, really?
Well, I mean, it's not just any book. It's a book that someone was trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, it's not a book that's in their library that has been approved by the administration, and it's not in the restricted section. So it's.
But it's also in the school, which I feel like is pretty safe, mostly.
You'd think so.
I mean, I'm starting to question it, but you know.
Yes.
It's not like they're on like Diagon Alley and he's like, whoa, don't pick up that just random book sitting over there by the dumpster. Like that. That could be a sketchy book, you know.
You mean Nocturne Alley?
Or anywhere. I mean, even Diagon Alley. I wouldn't just pick up a random book. Who knows who dropped that walking to and fro somewhere.
Fair enough.
Stumbling out of the leaky cauldron.
With dragon eggs in the pockets.
Exactly, Matt. Exactly. We learned that it's going to be a long recovery for Miss Granger.
We did.
A couple months, right?
Yeah.
I was trying to do the math on it, and because this happened right after Christmas.
Yep. Or, well, I mean, it was over the holiday break.
Okay.
We don't know precisely when their holiday break is.
Sure.
But
in my head, it was like the week after Christmas.
Yeah. Somewhere in that time frame.
Early January, maybe.
December, January, yeah.
Yeah. Either way, a couple months before she could go back to normal. And she's not a cat.
I think it said like at the beginning of February. So, I mean, it could have been as little as a month probably, but
was it
in
February
my head,
or March?
I think it was beginning of February.
That's possible. Regardless, it seemed longer than it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a rather long time, but I think part of it was just for the sake of the book. They wanted to take Hermione out of the picture for a while.
Sure.
And give Ron and Harry some time alone.
Right.
But at the same time, she did specifically say, like, that potion they made was not meant for animal transformations. And there's a big reason for that.
Right.
It's because it has this nasty side effect that is not easily reversed. So,
sure.
But yeah, getting back to the book, though, they did end up picking it up.
Yes.
And the only thing they found on it was the name T.M. Riddle.
Right.
And oddly enough, I mean, part of it was Hermione wasn't there, so they couldn't ask her necessarily. But Ron was the one who knew the name already.
Mm-hmm.
He had seen it on an award for special services to the school 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm all for random facts from throughout the book being tied together for whatever reason, just dropping this down and whatever and tying it in later. But an award for special services to the school.
Yeah.
Why is this award still at the school? In my opinion, this is something that was awarded to, I would assume, a student, and that student takes it with them. It's not like it's a Quidditch cup that the team won, and so it's at the school in the trophy room. It's not anything like that actually relates to the school. It is specifically for this student.
Yes. I could go two ways with this. One, at like high schools, if a student athlete like got like an MVP of the league or some sort of individual accomplishment, I feel like I've seen like those trophies and awards at the schools, like to almost like a recognition of like at one point the student did something incredible while he was a student here at this school, and we want all following students to recognize it and appreciate it, you know. Not to say that he didn't get his own award that he could take home with him, or, you know, so, I mean, once you leave school, like, you don't want all that junk. Like, just leave it there at the school, right? Or, what if he never left the school, Matt?
I suppose it's a possibility.
I mean, what if he didn't go anywhere? What if he's a ghost?
Yeah.
What if something happened to him and he died? What if he's still there? What if he's somebody that we know and he just changed his name? I don't trust anything at this school, Matt.
Must be Lockhart.
God. There's very few triggers I have in this world, Matt, but his name is just one of them.
Always and forever.
I feel like it's going to be. Sadly.
Anyway, you're saying, Hermione in the hospital.
Thank you for bypassing the slug.
Yep.
Because I thought you were going there, and
oh no.
I mean, I appreciate that they called back to when Ron was burping up slugs all over the awards and he was cleaning them, and that's the only reason he knows that name, because he spent an hour and a half polishing that specific award because he kept belching slugs all over the place. I appreciate the thought to go back and tie that in. I don't like hearing about it, but I appreciate it for what it does.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Hermione.
Yeah. So then, I think shortly after that, we got our first mention of the mandrakes in this chapter.
Well, before that.
Yeah.
Hermione got super excited learning about this new book. And all the pages being blank in it. Because she suspected invisible ink.
It's true.
Which didn't catch me by surprise. I was like, well, yeah, duh. Of course it has invisible ink in this world, you know?
Yeah.
But then she goes on to just push it a little bit farther. And, you know, I let my guard down, and then she swooped in and surprised me. She bought a revealer at Diagon Alley before school started. So she has this revealer thing that reveals invisible ink, because of course she does, because it's Hermione. I mean, everybody else is worrying about like their owls and, you know, their broomsticks and everything else, and she's like, I need to buy a revealer in case I ever come across invisible ink in a textbook that I need to read.
I don't know. She's one to over prepare, I guess.
I feel like she's like would make a great Eagle Scout, you know?
Yes, we've always kind of said like she is very resourceful.
Sure.
Usually when we say that, we mean she's very book smart and remembers everything she reads. And so she can pull out information or knowledge when she needs it to help out in a situation. Mm-hmm. But in this case, she had enough forethought that, hey, this might come in handy. This seems like something I might be able to use sometime, especially after having 1 year under her belt in Hogwarts.
But no other 12-year-old is worrying about a revealer for invisible ink.
How do you know?
Well, she's different.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Ravenclaw, because I don't even know what they're all about at this point. They probably have just an entire surplus of revealers, and I don't know what the deal is with Ravenclaw, Matt. I'm not even going to pretend like I know what that house is about. I really don't. I'm pretty sure they're not even at Hogwarts, to be honest with you.
Hey.
I know we got a reference to one, but that doesn't mean that there's a whole house of them. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So no, I don't know that nobody else thought of it other than Hermione, but it just seems like so typical of Hermione that I just have a hard time believing that like Neville Longbottom and other 12-year-olds are super concerned with the possibility of ever coming across invisible ink.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate you challenging me on this, Matt, but Hermione does Hermione things, and this is the utmost Hermione thing she could do.
Sure.
Okay. Mandrakes.
Mandrakes.
Moody mandrakes.
Yes. I don't have a lot to say about them really, other than I just love how she repeatedly comes back to. There's, I think, the reference in this chapter, and I think there's another reference in the next chapter. Yep, in the next chapter as well. And so I'm just going to read these quotes because I love them so much. The mandrakes are becoming moody and secretive, meaning that they were fast leaving childhood. The moment their acne clears up, they'll be ready for repotting again.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's she's not, once again, she's not explicitly saying these mandrakes are children.
Right.
And this is what happens to children. Like the way it's written, it's just you're assuming things and you can picture things, and it just fits so perfectly.
Sure. And you know what? Let's time jump a little bit here. In chapter 14, the next chapter we're going to talk about.
Yep.
I'm not even going to wait for it. We have another reference to mandrakes.
Sure.
Mandrake they're throwing a party, Matt. There is a mandrake party, and I'm not invited.
The mandrakes threw a loud, raucous party in the greenhouse.
Greenhouse number 7, I think it was, or something. 3.
It might have been. I don't remember offhand.
Specifically numbered, but
Yep.
I want to go to a mandrake party. Also, better yet, is the reference of because they're throwing a party. This is how they know that they're not mature yet.
It's true, but then the moment they start trying to move into each other's pots, we know they're fully mature.
Yeah. It reminded me of that Cheez-It commercial.
Yes.
With the cheese who's like just
yes.
saying ridiculous jokes, and the scientists are like, nope, not ready.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Trying to wait for
that is a very good
the cheese to age and for it to be mature, and I'm just like, that's exactly what's going on here with these crazy little mandrakes that are having a party. They're not ready.
You got it.
The Cheez-It commercial ripped off the mandrake party.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable, Matt. I'll never be able to watch those commercials again. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in a while, but
me neither. Yeah. They're probably out there somewhere, syndicated TV. Anyway, I want to party with the mandrakes. I don't know. I'm sure it would be out of hand, probably unbearable because they're so loud.
Well, yeah, you have to. I mean, that's the thing. It's like their cries. Their cries can kill you. Is that what it is? Actually, yeah. But when they were young, when they were repotting them, like they just knock you out.
Right.
But I believe a fully grown mandrake can actually kill you.
Right. So you gotta be prepared. But I mean, if you're ready to party with mandrakes, you know you're in for a good time. Also, I have like this top 3 list in my head going on of like the favorite weird little creatures of this world so far. Mandrakes are up there along with the garden gnomes, obviously.
Sure.
But dwarves kind of snuck into this list after today's reading. And we'll get to that in a second, but I'm just there's this rotating list of like just fascinating little creatures that I want to know more about, you know, and
the good news is many of them we get to learn more about.
I can't wait. God, I can't wait. Anyway, mandrakes. This was such good times learning about the mandrakes.
Yep. And I think, like, as you were saying, like, this chapter had so many, like, serious and sad points in it. Just throwing these mandrakes in there from time to time was just enough to, you know, yep.
I laughed out loud. I literally laughed out loud a couple different times because of the mandrakes.
Yep.
So, well done. So going back to 13, we'll go back to chapter 13 now.
Yes.
Because we have to talk about this guy. I don't want to. I really don't. And I wasn't really expecting to say much about it because it seemed like he was going to do something stupid and then we'd move on. But what he did was beyond just a stupid little thing. And it turned out to be kind of a big deal in the grand scheme of the chapter. Of course, I'm talking about quote-unquote Professor Lockhart.
Yes.
He wants to restore happy times to Hogwarts. He wants to make everybody feel good. He wants, he wants to cheer everybody up.
Okay, so now that I know where you're going with this, just before that, I need to point out there's one line in there about him.
Oh, about saving the day?
Yeah.
Oh,
Gilderoy
yeah.
Lockhart seemed to think he himself had made the attacks stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, I can't believe that guy. But yes, then he had an idea for a morale booster.
Which I appreciate where they went with this.
Yeah.
I do. I don't like it being associated to him. But it's nice to know that they celebrate Valentine's Day at Hogwarts.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if they always celebrate to this extent. I don't think so.
I mean, not with, the dwarves.
Sure.
So because that was like his idea.
And the pink flowers everywhere to match his beautiful pink robe that he wore, because of course he did.
I think you get the idea that it's not normal from like the looks that the other teachers were giving him.
Yeah, but it's not like they had to be introduced to the notion of Valentine's Day, I guess, was my thinking. Sure. I was like, they at least know what Valentine's Day is. Like, it's a thing. It's not celebrated in a grand spectacle, but it's not a new concept that he's introducing to them.
Yes.
But in all caps in my notes, Matt, I wrote, how do the teachers continue to allow this fool to get away with all of this? Like, they're just sitting there, rolling their eyes. Snape looks like he's probably going to kill somebody. Everybody is just irritated beyond belief with the show that this guy is putting on. And nobody stops him. He just has free reign to do whatever he wants because he's Lockhart.
Yeah, we've seen it the whole book. He just gets away with it even in front of other teachers. I mean, this one in particular, I can kind of see because more or less it is harmless. It's annoying, but it's harmless.
Right. And
the teachers would probably agree that a morale booster was needed.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
It's one of those, like, well, I don't really have a better plan, so I guess we'll just let him do his thing, but it'll keep him busy, keep him out of our way for a while, even though, the dwarves kind of interrupted things then and didn't keep out of their way, but yeah.
My problem with it, though, is it immediately turned from, okay, he's doing a nice thing, although very over the top, as only he can do, to, is he just doing this for his own ego at this point? Like, is this all about him? Because he immediately thanks the 46 people who sent him Valentine's Day cards and said, don't worry, to the rest of you that haven't sent theirs in yet. Like, he's expecting every single student in there to send him Valentine's Day cards.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. My note in this whole debacle was, did Hermione send all 46 of those Valentines? Because I don't know of 45 other people that were going to send him Valentine's Day cards.
I don't think she sent them, all of them. I wouldn't be surprised if she sent multiple, sure. But you still get the idea, or at least I get the idea, that it has always been the women, the girls, who were kind of more drawn to him. And so we get these reactions from the guys, which most of the time we're following around the trio. So it's Hermione against Ron and Harry. And so it seems lopsided, and not that many people are, infatuated with him or whatever. But I think it's still out there that a lot of the females at the school, I mean, excluding the teachers, would probably still kind of be swooning over him.
I suppose that's possible. But it's just... I read that and I'm like, of course Hermione sent more than one Valentine's Day. There's no way she sent more than one card, you know?
I mean, he did thank 46 people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's even that dense that if he got 46 from one person, he would thank 46 people. Like,
yeah, but he would say it to make people think that 46 people sent him cards.
I guess.
Because he wouldn't just say, thank you to the one person who sent me 46 cards.
Yeah.
Because then he seems less likable than if 46 different people sent him cards.
Sure.
I don't know. He's ridiculous. I hate him, Matt. I don't like him. But he introduced us to dwarves delivering Valentine's Day cards and poems and songs, and that might be one of the best things ever.
Especially when... at least my version of a dwarf isn't someone you picture singing so much. Like
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, my friend.
Yes, but this whole time I'm picturing like Grumpy.
If they're working for Lockhart, yes.
And like, because it feels like they're being forced into this. They're all. I think they were all dressed up like Cupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't sound like a job they really want. Like. I don't picture these dwarves dressing up as Cupid.
Unless they're all dopies.
Yeah. So it seems like they're doing it begrudgingly.
Sure. Most like I suspect most people do things for Lockhart begrudgingly.
Sure.
Yeah. Except Hermione, of course. But they go to extreme lengths to get the job done.
Yeah.
They are very aggressive little
Forceful.
dwarves. Yeah.
Yes.
I loved the visual of them like grabbing onto Harry around the knees, taking him down,
Yep.
and then sitting on his ankles so he couldn't get up. They're just like, I'm just gonna sit here until my job's done, and you're gonna like it.
Yep.
So funny.
Basically, he couldn't leave until he had read the message. So you're staying here until I'm done because I have to do my thing, and then we can all go.
Eyes as green as pickled toads. Pickled toads? Pickled frogs?
That's a good question.
Mm.
You didn't copy and paste this? Come on.
No, I should have.
Well, this is why I write down my page numbers.
Yeah. Either way, you know something like that was going to happen. It was bound to happen. They weren't just going to introduce dwarves with singing telegrams for no reason other than to eventually get to Harry. Or Ron. But I don't know if anybody likes Ron like that.
You don't know. Yeah. I mean, at this point, too, they are only 12.
Right.
So they're probably just getting into that stage of life. So his eyes are as green as a fresh pickled toad. His hair is as dark as a blackboard. I wish he was mine. He's really divine. The hero who conquered the Dark Lord.
So good.
And just wrap the fact that they wrap school into like a blackboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who includes blackboards in their poems?
Somebody who's at school and staring at blackboards a lot.
I suppose they probably wrote it while they're in class.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go.
So this was just, kind of add fuel to the fire for Draco and everybody. It kind of brought back a little good faith towards Harry Potter, which I think was needed because people were still kind of afraid of him. They were staying away from him. This kind of humiliated him. He went along with it, but, it also, I think, reminded the kids, like, hey, he's still just a kid that,
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure where you're going with that, but I got you now.
Yeah. I don't know if that was solely, like, we learn, later on that, like, kids started to be nice to him again and not as fearful as they were. And I don't know if this had anything directly responsible for that, but it definitely helped loosen the mood regarding him for people.
Yeah.
And we also saw Ron jump into Jenny's defense again.
We did,
which I appreciate.
Yep.
He didn't go crazy because, goodness knows he doesn't want to start belching slugs again. Like, he pulls out his wand, threatening, but then he's like, this is going to end badly for me, so it's best I just put this thing away right now.
Yeah.
But I appreciate him still sticking up for his little sister.
Absolutely. Gotta stick together. The Weasleys.
Yes. Gotta fast forward to the part that I'm not ready to talk about, but we have to, Matt.
We do.
We absolutely have to cover this in this podcast. You set it up. I need to collect myself. I'm serious. Like, this was a tough part to read. I was not okay going through this, and I put in my notes, Matt, getting nervous here. As this whole scene was starting to develop, I had to type out that I was nervous because I was physically starting to react to what was going on. I had grabbed a blanket at that point and was clutching it a little, probably too tight. I forgot to write a couple notes because I was just enamored and scared and upset about what was happening. And it was this roller coaster. The bottom fell out here.
So, just a quick recap of events. When Harry was tackled by the dwarf, he all his books spilled out of his bag, including his jar of ink, because that's what wizards use to write, of course.
Sure.
They don't have pens.
Right.
But his ink spilled out all over all of his books. Mm-hmm. All of his books had ink blots all over them, except one book, the diary.
Mm-hmm.
So Harry figured there's something weird about this diary. Got to figure it out. He decides he's going to start writing in it. So he sits down to write in it. He, oddly enough, then the ink he writes with disappears temporarily, but then reappears with new words in response to what he wrote.
Did he start off with his name?
Yeah, I think he just wrote, like, my name is Harry Potter or something like that.
Right, yeah. He wasn't directly trying to write anything. It was just like, this is the most basic thing I could think of.
Yeah, so he was excited because he dropped just a drop of ink on the page and disappeared.
Yeah.
And so he wrote, my name is Harry Potter. And then it wrote back, hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary?
We have a talking diary. We have a conversation happening with a book.
Yes. And my biggest thing always was with this, like, does the book have a certain amount of ink it can use? Like, can it only use as much ink as it's, like, sucked up? Because, like, my name is Harry Potter is a lot shorter than hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary?
Right.
But then again, I guess we figure it just got a bunch of ink spilled on it. So
sure.
Maybe you can use that. Okay.
Also,
side note,
this is like the equivalent of like an AOL chat room at this point.
It's true.
This is AIM on a book.
Did you ever do you know of a show called Ghostwriter?
Yes.
Like the old, like,
oh yeah,
was
the
typewriter on PBS?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you are familiar with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's kind of what I think of when I think of this. Like that's what the closest thing I can think of.
Definitely.
Where Ghostwriter had to use, I think there it had to, like, use the letters and the text that it was given. It couldn't make up stuff on its own.
I don't remember the specifics of how it worked.
Because I like I said, like when they would type stuff out and it could rearrange those letters, or if there was like a sign, I think it could rearrange those letters.
Yeah.
But there had to be some sort of writing present.
Right.
For it to do anything.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I think of here. It's like it needs the ink in order to reply, but at the same time, it's going one step further because it has more free range. It doesn't need specific letters. It can just use the ink to write whatever.
Sure. According to Wikipedia, Ghost Rider can communicate with the kids only by manipulating whatever text and letters he could find and using them to form words and sentences.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I always think of that a little bit when I get to this part. It's like I've kind of seen this before, but it's still a little bit different.
Right.
I'm just glad to know someone else actually watched that show.
No, because I remember having conversations with my friends. It was like about Ghost Rider, and there would always be, is it Ghost Rider or Rider? You know, and having to differentiate that between what we were talking about. Two completely different characters.
Absolutely.
But yeah, very, very confusing in just the context of a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Harry starts to have the conversation, telling the diary how he got the book, and then eventually gets into, well, I guess who Tom Riddle is.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out he knows about the Chamber of Secrets.
Yes, he does.
And so Harry wants to know more.
But he's committed at this point.
Yeah. Instead of continually just writing these really long paragraphs about what he knows, he tells him he can show him.
Yeah. You know, in a roller coaster, Matt, when you're slowly starting to go uphill, and you know once you get to the top, you know what's coming.
Yep.
You don't know all the twists and turns that are about to happen, but you know you're about to drop.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to keep going up forever. It's not going to stall. You're not going to stop there and move about your day in a happy manner. You're going to drop.
Yeah.
Building up to this, to the point where Harry is about to see what happened, felt like that. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. Oh no, here we go. Close my eyes. I was scared,
and what'd you find out?
I was scared. Oh, bad things. Very bad things. Actually, okay. Not bad things to start. We learned that Tom Riddle at one point was talking to the headmaster at the time.
Yep.
Professor Dippet.
Yep.
And he was talking to him about the possibility of staying at Hogwarts for the summer.
I was hoping you would catch that as well.
Oh, goodness, yes. Because he didn't want to go back to the Muggle orphanage, because he hated it there. He had a miserable life outside of Hogwarts, and he didn't want to go home for the summer. And all I could think about was, I am not crazy for wanting this and demanding this.
Sure.
He didn't get it, but still. I feel like I was raising this question before this was even properly introduced in the context of the story.
You absolutely were.
Nailed it. We also got to learn about Professor Dumbledore when he was just Professor Dumbledore.
It's true.
Which is absolutely fascinating. Because, you know, we know him as headmaster, and we know that he wasn't always headmaster, but it's weird to think of somebody in such a position doing something else other than that position, you know?
Yeah.
Like the president of the United States at one point was just like a small town mayor or something like that. You know, it's like,
yeah,
still an authoritative figure, but like you don't really know he was going to go to where he did, you know?
Yeah. You kind of wonder. It's one of those things you would go to Wikipedia for.
Right.
It's like, where was Albus Dumbledore before he was headmaster?
Right. Right. He's probably a hippie. I feel like he's hippie. He has a lot of hippie qualities.
Sure.
You know, 50 years ago, that's around the time of Woodstock, theoretically. Close. Pretty close. Getting there.
Well,
not quite.
Like in the 40s.
I guess that's true. Yeah. Wait, what? 40s?
Yeah.
This happened 50 years ago.
What do you, yeah. What do you mean?
No, nothing. I'm just making connections in my head.
Harry Potter. Oh, I might see where you're going with that.
Aren't you worried about Fantastic Beasts and where they come from?
And where to find them?
Didn't that happen in like 1940s?
I don't know the exact year, but
ish.
Probably somewhere around there.
So there's a chance that when things were going down at Hogwarts, there was some other stuff going on in the world too.
It's possible.
That may or may not be related at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. The possibilities are out there.
See, this is your fault, Matt, because in my head, I'm thinking I'm reading this in 2016, so I'm immediately deducting 50 years from where we're at now.
Sure.
Because I'm reading the story as if it's just happening.
No, it has been, well, either assumed or discovered time and time again that, yeah, Harry Potter starts in the late 90s.
Right. I keep forgetting that point. So,
Yep.
you know, when I'm subtracting, when we're going back in time, I'm not taking it back from mid to late 90s. Huh. I don't know if that actually changes anything for me or not. But I can see why you might be a little concerned about what's about to happen.
Sure.
I don't know why you're concerned. I don't know what they could possibly... Do I? I don't think so. Not yet.
No, I don't think you have enough to figure anything out.
No, trust me. I'm sure I don't. Okay, so Dumbledore, Professor Dumbledore is just a professor. We met a young Hagrid.
Okay, before we get there, I do want to point out that Riddle mentions that he's a half-blood.
Right. Okay.
That's kind of where we talk about his family members that we brought up earlier.
Sure.
We get his full name, and
okay.
Yeah, we find out he's a half-blood.
Yeah, that kind of got a little cloudy for me because they also threw in Muggleborn. You know, I think they use the term Muggleborn, and you know, then I was thinking of like the Muggle orphanage, and like there was all kinds of like. I was trying to piece together things and kind of got muddied up a bit.
Sure.
Only because I was focused on the fact that we got to see young Hagrid.
Yes.
He was a large kid.
He is.
And I don't think they specifically said this was Hagrid, but not at the time.
Well, no. He doesn't mention Hagrid because he was a fellow student.
Right.
And I don't know how much you remember, but Hagrid is actually his last name.
Right. They use his first name.
Rubius.
They use it once.
Yep. And we have heard it before, and then when Tom comes to confront him, he calls him Rubius.
Right.
Because that's, I'm sure, how he was introduced to him.
Sure. Dumbledore refers to him as Rubius.
Okay.
I think so, right? Like earlier in the books.
Oh, yeah. I think
when Dumbledore talks to Hagrid, I think he calls him Rubius.
Yeah, I think when Hagrid first introduces himself to Harry, he introduces himself as Rubius Hagrid, and I think when Dumbledore talks about him a couple times, he will call him Rubius.
Yes,
but for the most part, even all the other teachers and students and such refer to him as Hagrid.
Sure. So we've heard Rubius before, but like definitely in this whole scene, they did use the name once, and I don't think I immediately caught it until they started describing how big this kid was.
Yep.
A lot bigger than all the other kids, and so on and so forth. And then they start talking about his curiosity. And love for animals?
Yeah. How did they reference it in this chapter? Because we've talked about this a couple of times.
Yeah. There was a lot going on here, Matt, and I don't remember all the details because I was kind of just taken back that we were talking about young Hagrid at Hogwarts.
Yeah.
In reference to the Chamber of Secrets being opened at one point.
Indeed.
He opened it? Did he open it?
It's what he was accused of.
He was. Because he was chasing some big scary monster.
Yeah. So what we know is that Tom Riddle wanted to stay at Hogwarts over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Dippet wouldn't let him because of all the things that were going on at the school.
Right.
But he basically got him to agree that if these things stopped, then maybe he could stay. I don't know if he actually said that, but that's what Tom was assuming.
Sure.
And so he was going to find a way to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thought he knew something. He knew Hagrid had this affinity for I
think just probably creatures in general.
Yeah, big creatures. He liked them as pets, and
Mm-hmm.
he sympathized with them. Probably partly in part because he was so big himself.
Right.
And yeah, Tom apparently knew something that Hagrid had some kind of pet or something he was hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow Tom knew about this, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was his time because it would benefit him. Like right now, Tom felt it was hurting him.
Right.
So he needed to do something about it.
Yeah, he did. I don't like the direction of any of this, Matt.
Yeah.
Does this explain why Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts? Is he just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Because that would be a Hagrid thing to do.
That would be a Neville thing to do.
That's true. That is very true. But maybe Neville learned it from someone. Hagrid has some secrets. He likes his secrets. He likes to keep his secrets. He's bad at keeping secrets. But I think he likes to have secrets, you know?
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, but I think he gets like a special joy out of having secrets. Like he got a dragon egg and he's just like, I'm going to raise this little dragon in my hut because that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
He's so lovable. I don't want to think that he did anything malicious here. I don't want to think that he did anything bad intentionally.
Well, Tom even points out, I don't think you meant it to hurt anybody.
Right.
But I still have to turn you in.
Yeah.
Because you're the one responsible.
But was he? Was he responsible? Was he set up? Matt, you have to tell me.
We don't know.
No, we don't. I can't handle this. Chapter 14.
Yep, that was the end of the chapter. Harry now believes that Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We hit chapter 14, titled Cornelius Fudge.
What a strange name.
We've heard it before. I'd be a little bit surprised if you remembered who Cornelius Fudge was. Did you before reading this chapter?
Not a clue.
Okay.
No.
We have run across him before. Obviously, yeah, he's the Minister of Magic. He is, therefore, Arthur Weasley's boss because he works at the Ministry of Magic. But we'll get into that later. As for new characters, we finally learned the name of that Ravenclaw girl.
Yes.
was Penelope Clearwater.
Right.
So there you go. We not only have a reference to a Ravenclaw, but we have a name.
Still don't believe they exist. For you. Nope, not at all. All right. She's just a token Ravenclaw at this point. Still, Ravenclaw is still not an intricate part of the story in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
So we start off chapter 14, obviously back on Hagrid.
Yep. Because at this point, it's just Harry had this information, right? So he had to share it.
Yes, and who else would he share it with other than his buddy Ron?
Yeah.
Right. They start talking about all the creatures that Hagrid loves.
Yep.
And that he's tried to hide and has taken care of. We have Fluffy. We have the dragon. Norbert. The Norwegian
Ridgeback.
Ridgeback. I was getting there. Something back. I knew it was something back. Of course, we had Fang.
It's true. He is a large boarhound.
Yep. So, it's not out of the ordinary for Hagrid to have giant mythical of sorts creatures.
Well, I wouldn't call Fang mythical, but...
Right. Oh, three-headed dog, dragon. Also, his dog, I think, is probably bigger proportionally than, like, normal size,
Oh, yeah. I totally believe, yeah, he is the largest of the pack where he came from.
Yeah. So, kind of mythical. I mean, legendary at least.
Sure.
If not full-on mythical. I did make a note about how well Ron's sarcasm is written.
Yeah.
I don't remember what specific line it was that he had, but there was something that he said where it's just like, I love the way Ron is written sometimes. Like, just, you could just see, because I've seen the first movie and I know what this character looks like now.
Yes.
I have, when he says certain things, his facial expressions and the look that he gives when he says something sarcastically, like, it just pops up immediately. I'm like, that is such a Ron thing to say.
Sure.
I also made a note about Ron pointed out something amazing about quote-unquote Professor Lockhart. That his best lesson to date is that you don't let pixies loose.
It's true.
And that's just like the perfect summary of like how great of a professor, and when I say great, obviously I'm being as sarcastic as Ron here, that Professor Lockhart is, because that wasn't a lesson. His lesson wasn't to demonstrate how you should never release pixies. That's not what he was going for at all, but that's exactly what all those kids took away from, was this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I applaud Ron for pointing that out and for learning something from that joker.
Perfect.
Then we started getting into some school issues.
Yeah.
Which we don't always get. Few and far between sometimes.
Like, you've asked for a little bit more, and I'm always interested to see more.
Absolutely.
And so this just gets into, I guess, gives you a little preview of what might be coming in the future. Mm-hmm. And, well, I'll tell you now what will be coming in the future.
I mean, unless they change the mind or something, but...
Yeah, so we get into this idea that up until this point, the first and second year's class schedule has all been predetermined.
Right.
They don't really have a choice in what they're taking.
Sure.
But, as you know, in any good schooling system, the further up you go, the more choice you have, the more electives you can take. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens here starting with your third year at Hogwarts. So naturally, while you're still in your second year, you have to figure out what you want to take in your third year.
Yep.
So this also brings us to our Muggle poll of the week. There were 5 new subjects that were mentioned in this chapter. We had arithmancy, ancient ruins, divination, Muggle studies, and care of magical creatures. So I went ahead and took 4 of those.
Mm-hmm.
Decided to leave out arithmancy.
Sure.
Since it's. I mean, are you familiar with the term?
Not really. No.
Did you look it up?
No.
Okay.
Again, Matt, I'm afraid to look stuff up.
Very true. Fair enough.
I don't know what's safe out there.
Okay. Do you have questions about any of these then? Those 5.
I mean, Muggle studies, I understand. That was pretty self-explanatory, but also explained as well. Care of magical creatures, I think I got that pretty much down pat. Ancient runes, is that like spells?
It's probably closer to studying an ancient language.
Oh, okay.
Like runes that you would carve into stone and stuff.
Sure.
So it could be whether it is actually a language or more like hieroglyphs or something like that. But it's just studying that type of stuff.
Okay. And then the divination, I'm not 100% confident I know what that is.
Okay, so the divination...
I think it was even explained.
The very short explanation is going to be learning to tell the future.
Oh, okay.
But it's... that unfortunately, that's kind of what arithmancy is too. And that's why I decided to leave that one out.
Okay.
It's just in how you approach it. So like divination is going to be the stuff that we typically think about. If you picture someone telling the future, how are they using it? Like what was that?
Crystal ball.
Yes, there you go. That's going to be included in like divination.
Okay.
That type of thing.
Gotcha.
Whereas arithmancy is learning to tell a future through numbers. So the first part of that word is like arithmetic.
Okay.
You get your numbers in there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's just taking a different approach, almost like a scientific approach to trying to tell the future.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the 5 we're looking at. I left arithmancy off of the poll because I only get 4 slots for answers.
Sure.
So I simply asked, which elective class would you sign up for? I mean, assuming that you could only choose one. So ancient ruins, divination, Muggle studies, or care magical creatures. Do you have your choice?
Oh, this is an easy one, Matt.
Okay. Are you going with the masses here?
I have to. Absolutely.
Yep. I had no doubt in my mind that care of magical creatures was going to win.
Yeah.
I was surprised, actually, though, how the other ones turned out.
Me too.
Yeah.
I thought Muggle studies would have been higher.
I would have too, because that's what I go for.
Yeah.
Mostly because I want to see like what is being taught and how they study Muggles and what types of things they cover in there.
Right.
Whether or not I'm a Muggle myself, it kind of interests me.
Sure. How to look at the world that we know as our world through a different lens.
Yeah.
Like that's fascinating.
Yeah. Personally, I'm not so much into necessarily knowing the future. I'm okay. What happens, it's going to happen.
Sure.
Even if you can see the future, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to change it. So, yeah.
Right.
I don't need that. Ancient ruins, I don't know.
It sounds a little too scholarly for me.
Yeah. Just not my type. Care of magical creatures. Like I understand why everybody else wants to take that one, but I would be the first person to admit that I am not a pet person.
Okay.
I don't really care for animals.
Sure.
So it's not really going to be my thing.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why there's options, Matt.
Yep.
Of course, Hermione wants to do all of them.
Of course.
Because that's Hermione.
Yeah. The question is like, like she can't obviously do them all. Like there's a reason. Is there going to be enough time?
I feel like she would make time. I don't know. Like I don't know how the structure of the day works. You know, like if you're not playing Quidditch, you know,
sure.
I don't know. Like because you don't drop any classes, that was explained. You know, you're not losing any of the classes that you have to take, even though you probably don't want to take Defense of the Dark Arts or the Potion class. Still got to. This is just an add-on to your schedule.
You're just adding a class. And I get the idea that like Ron and Harry are only signing up for, well, no. I guess even they are signing up for a couple, I guess.
Yeah. And see, we don't know if these are full year or if like maybe there's a semester where you could do half a year one class and half of the year for another, maybe to get like a feel for.
I believe they're all full year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hermione's an overachiever. Like it's really no surprise that she's going to try to do all of them.
Sure.
Will she be allowed to do all of them? I don't know.
Yeah.
But she's going to try. That's for sure.
I did like Hermione took nobody's advice but signed up for everything.
Yeah. I was kind of laughing at like Neville getting all this crazy advice from his family and him just being just completely lost as to what to do.
Just overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. I did also appreciate Perfect Percy being kind of a guidance counselor, but also kind of a parental figure that Harry really hasn't had in his life.
Sure.
You know, I think he probably sees some of the professors at Hogwarts, you know, Dumbledore especially, probably McGonagall, even though he's kind of scared of her. Definitely Hagrid, of being more, and even the Weasleys, like the Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, as being more of parental figures than he's had in his life up until Hogwarts.
Yeah.
But for Percy to kind of step into that role, like I feel like Percy has been used to doing that with his younger siblings. And that's also kind of like the leadership role that he has as the prefect. But this is also something that like Harry really needed, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause this is another big area, of the wizarding world that he hasn't been introduced to.
Yeah.
Like we've been doing this the whole time for the first two books, slowly introducing Harry to all these different things in the wizarding world, and now all of a sudden they just threw down 5 more areas of study, which are, well, other than Muggle studies, although even Harry didn't really have a normal Muggle life. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that there are all these different directions he can go now, and he really doesn't know anything about any of them. He's having a hard enough time keeping up and learning about the classes he already has.
Yeah. And this is also kind of the first time that he's had to think about being a wizard as a career.
Yeah.
You know, like it's who you are, it's what you are, but you also get the opportunity to have some sort of career in the wizarding world.
Yeah, growing up, Harry in the Muggle world, he could have gone on to sell drills like his uncle or something. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the Muggle or in the wizarding world, that's not going to be one of your job options.
Right.
I mean, I suppose you could still go back and do that if you really wanted to. You could work in the Muggle world, but all the choices become drastically different once you get into the wizarding world.
Yeah.
I guess, okay, professor, if you want to be a teacher, that they have professors in the Muggle world too.
Sure.
What you're teaching is going to be different.
Absolutely.
But the idea behind the profession, the job itself, is about the same.
Right.
So it just opened up a whole lot of doors.
Yeah. But I really appreciated Percy kind of, even without Harry, like, even asking him, like, just understanding that he needed this badly.
Yeah.
You know, like, they even made the joke about, you know, Harry imagining if he went to Mr. Dursley with advice about, you know, what studies he should go after in the wizarding world. You know, like, he even knows, like, he can't get this advice from back home at all.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what. So, and the professors are there, like, they're more than willing to help any students. But for Percy just to step in and be like, this is what I need to do because this kid needs some direction and he needs some guidance and he needs to hear, you know, what a lot of the kids need to hear. You know, do something that fits you and your personality and what works best with how you see the world.
Yep.
So it was just a little thing, but I had so much appreciation for it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, perfect Percy.
Oh, before we go on, I did want to read a couple of the tweets that were sent in alongside the Muggle poll here.
Okay.
DMU girl did write in and say, I'm assuming she picked care of magical creatures, because she also wrote in, I could pet a unicorn. Alex, Atari Alex, he chose Muggle Studies so he could get an easy O, which is not a typo, but you don't quite understand that yet.
An easy O?
Yes, but care of magical creatures would be my second choice. Yes, he's referencing easy A.
Okay.
But we haven't really gotten into the Hogwarts grading system.
Right. And
some of the upper level tests that they need to take as they go on through the school years. Like we starting next book, we really do dive into more about Hogwarts.
Okay.
And so we'll get into some of that stuff there, but I greatly appreciate the reference, Alex.
I feel like sometimes he throws references in knowing that I'm not going to know what he's talking about.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And then Malik didn't mean to hit ancient ruins. Apparently he voted for the wrong one. It was the first one on the list. So meant to hit care of magical creatures. I already have 4 piranha and a bearded dragon. Oh, well.
Wow. He's halfway there.
Yeah, he might be Hagrid.
Yeah. Malik is my new spirit animal.
There you go.
All right.
So yes, thank you everybody who took part in that poll, and for those of you who wrote in explaining yourselves. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with those, and a lot of weeks I just don't know what I'm going to ask, but that one just popped up. I'm like, yep, there we have it. We have our choices. It makes sense. Like I had to think about what I would choose and had some fun doing it. So
right. Let's see. From there, what did we have?
We had a theft.
We had a theft. That's right. Harry Potter's room and things were ransacked.
And it's worth noting that it was just Harry's.
Right.
I don't know how much you've paid attention to like the layout of this, but so we have basically what they call Gryffindor Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And within this tower is the Gryffindor common room.
Mm-hmm.
And then the boys' dormitory is up to the left, the girls up on the right.
Right.
And then when you go up to the boys' tower, each floor basically, or each room. I think each floor I think is just a separate room,
right,
within this tower, and each of those is basically split up by year, more or less.
Okay.
So like Harry shares a room with four other Gryffindor boys who are all in his class. Ron,
Neville, Seamus.
Is
it Seamus?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
That's one of those, what is it, like Irish or Scottish names.
We've probably talked about that.
I don't think we actually did, but
okay. Maybe I asked Val and she wasn't sure.
It's possible.
Yeah. And I don't remember the fourth kid.
Dean.
Okay.
Thomas.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Dean is the other one that comes heavily from the Muggle world, and he's a fan of soccer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So nobody else's stuff got ransacked.
Yeah. So there's five guys' stuff in there, and only Harry's got thrown around.
Yeah. His pockets were pulled inside out of his coat.
Yep.
Robe, something.
Cloak, I think.
Cloak.
They say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, somebody was looking for something.
Yep.
Somebody was probably looking for that journal, that magic journal, I'm guessing.
Yep.
We don't know what happened, Matt.
Yeah. It's gone. They found what they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They do mention that it had to be done by a Gryffindor, which seems really odd. The reason they know that is because no one else can get into their common room, into their dorms.
Right.
Because the whole password and the pictures and all that stuff.
Right. So who in Gryffindor would be doing that? You know what I immediately thought of?
What's that?
When this room just got torn apart, somebody looking for something. Where's Dobby?
It's true. We haven't seen him in a while.
I don't suspect any other Gryffindor to do this. But somebody had to get in there.
You would think, because when I think Gryffindors, I think, very honorable and wanting to do the right thing. And you don't see them ransacking a room and stealing stuff.
Right. Not without, good cause, Like, maybe they're still afraid of something, right? Or maybe somebody got inside their head and convinced them that they needed to help out, to look for something. That's possible, right?
Yeah.
But the mention of it having to be Gryffindor because no one else had the ability, no one else had the password that could get in through the portal door to get in, I just immediately started thinking, yeah, unless you're magic, which there's plenty of magical things happening in this castle here.
Yep.
And I just immediately thought of just something or someone just going through Harry's stuff, just throwing it about recklessly and carefree. And I don't know what it was, but I immediately thought of Dobby. And I where's he at? What's he been doing?
Yeah, we do know he's kind of, in my opinion at least, a troublemaker.
Yep.
We saw last we saw him was actually inside Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm.
He came out of nowhere.
Yep.
So we know he can get into Hogwarts,
right? Somehow. Yeah. He's been trying to stop Harry Potter from something. I mean, he tried to stop him from getting to Hogwarts, but once he's in Hogwarts, he's trying to stop him from something else. He's trying to save him. He's afraid for Harry Potter's life. He will go to whatever means necessary to protect him. We still don't know. We know he's a house elf. We don't know which house he belongs to.
Yep.
But what if whoever he belongs to sent him in there because they know that Harry possibly has his journal and might be discovering some things? So they send him in there and being like, Dobby, you need to go get this because this is bad for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
So taking into consideration that this is Dobby's action here to steal this thing, to steal the book, the secret journal. Then I have to start theorizing about who sent him. Okay?
Sure.
Did Tom Riddle send Dobby? Does Dobby belong to Riddle? Where is Riddle? Is he in Hogwarts? Is he sending Dobby off in little missions? We don't know anything about Tom Riddle. We don't know where he is.
Yeah, not so much.
Nothing at all. But it would make sense if he sent Dobby to go retrieve this thing, right? Because maybe he realized, hey, maybe, show this kid a little bit too much here. This could be dangerous.
He showed him just enough.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he's like, that's all he needs to see, and now I need my journal back. What if Dobby belongs to Dumbledore? And Dumbledore's like, this is Harry. I don't know what Dumbledore does.
I'm a little confused with. Dumbledore doesn't want Harry to come back to Hogwarts.
If he knows something bad's going to happen. I don't know what Dumbledore knows and doesn't know.
Don't you think, though, if Dumbledore didn't want Harry to come back, he would just tell him?
Unless he was trying to do it secretly. Like, what if he doesn't want to be found out that he is keeping Harry Potter from Hogwarts? Because he'd have to answer that. There are people that we know of watching his every move. In theory.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out there, Matt. I'm throwing stuff against the wall. I haven't nailed down my theory quite yet.
All right.
But I have one more suspect.
And who's that?
And this breaks my heart to even say it, Matt. But we already know a guy that likes to own weird little creatures, some big little creatures. What if Hagrid is who Dobby the house elf works for? And Hagrid is sending Dobby in to stop Harry from coming because he knows bad things are coming. He's already seen something in the Chamber of Secrets, we assume. He knows some things. He has some secrets. And he knows he wouldn't be able to keep his secrets very well if Harry was back in school. He loves Harry, but he's worried about his safety because he loves to protect people. That's all he does is protect people. Especially Dumbledore. The people he's closest to, he protects. By any means necessary. Sounds familiar, right? So what if he realized that Harry had this journal and that he was going to find out that Hagrid himself was involved with the Chamber of Secrets being opened 50 years ago, and he was protecting himself, he was protecting Harry from finding out further information, and just trying to protect Hogwarts in general. So he sent his little house elf, Dobby, to go retrieve the journal.
At this point, it's all possible.
And yet I'm probably so wrong on everything. And that I don't know what's going on, Matt. It's killing me.
I know, but we're almost there. Like, I believe we're only 2 more episodes away from the end of this book. And there's so much packed into these chapters.
When in doubt, Matt, go to the library.
Go to the library.
I love that.
Yep. It's Hermione's answer to everything. I mean, she has learned so much from books.
Yeah.
That's where we got Nicholas Flamel back in the day.
Yep.
She had read it in a book.
And Ron just like shakes his head every time. He's just like, you know where she's going. She's going to the library.
Yep.
Because when in doubt, go to the library.
Where's Hermione? Library. Got like a 95% chance you're right.
Right. That led to what we thought was going to be another Quidditch match.
Yep.
Which I will say I was a little irritated of the fact that we were about to go play Quidditch because I felt like there were some things going on in Hogwarts that I needed some answers to, Matt. And
sure.
I didn't really have the patience to pay attention to a Quidditch match, you know?
So you were right on board when McGonagall came out then.
I was like, oh, here we go. First of all, I thought Harry and Ron were going to be in trouble.
Sure.
Because they're Harry and Ron. They get in trouble.
Yep. That's what they do.
Wasn't the case.
No, not so much.
There was another attack.
Yep.
A double attack.
It's true.
The Ravenclaw we once knew is no more. The House of Ravenclaw has disintegrated with one attack.
Hey, they've just been petrified again. Come on. We know this is not the same as dead. We learned this.
But nobody's unpetrified yet.
No.
So until I see some proof.
Our mandrakes are maturing.
Maybe. Not if they keep partying like they are. Those things are never going to mature.
It's all a matter of time. This is expected behavior.
I guess. I'm sick of waiting on the maturity of mandrakes at this point. And I need to see some people unpetrify before I could believe that this is actually going to be a thing. So we lost our one Ravenclaw. She's gone. Out of the picture. Great run in this series so far. No, the big news here, Hermione. Hermione got attacked. And it was gut-wrenching to read about Harry and Ron, like, walking in and seeing her. Like, even though they know that she's petrified, like, there's still, like, this friends seeing other friends in the hospital and not being able to do anything about it. Like, when Harry had a broken arm and then missing bones because of stupid Lockhart. Like, that's one thing, you know? Hermione being a cat, that's one thing. Ron hurting himself, that's one thing. But, like, somebody intentionally attacking and hurting their best friend, like, that's a whole different level of pain and agony and sadness that they had to deal with, you know?
Yeah, this isn't something they saw coming. This isn't something that they did to themselves, essentially, with the Polyjuice potion.
Right.
This is different. And I think one of the big things is, even though they might know deep down that she's not dead and she's just petrified, it's still the fact that you can't talk to her. Right. It's like if someone's in a coma, like you don't necessarily know the outcome, and you can't talk to them and tell them it's going to be okay.
And because they haven't seen the other kids and Kat come out of the petrification yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think have seen this actually work. You know, I don't know what Ron has and hasn't seen or whatever.
At this point, I have to believe that, they've never seen this petrification before.
Right.
I mean, when Mrs. Norris was petrified, they didn't know what was going on.
Right. But, you know, Ron has read a lot of stuff, you know, not necessarily read, but he knows a lot about the wizarding world, you know.
You get the idea that this petrification is not a normal thing, really.
Yeah.
It's not something, and to the extent that it lasts this long.
Right.
Like, we talked about this before, that Neville in the first book was petrified.
Yeah.
By Hermione.
Right.
But that was
hours.
Yeah, that was more of a temporary thing, just so they could, bypass him.
Yeah.
So
but it eventually wore off on its own. Like, they weren't relying on the maturity of mandrakes to.
Yeah.
Get this party started.
Right now, they're going strictly on the word of, like, Professor Dumbledore and Madam.
Pomfrey?
Wow, Pomfrey. Thank you.
Whoa.
I kept going to Madam Pince, and I'm like, nope, it's the other one.
Who that is?
That's the librarian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is I didn't touch on the first time. Very clever name. Like, you familiar with the name for those like short spectacles?
No.
Fancy name for them?
Mm-mm.
I think it's like pince-nez or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Madam Pince, like your stereotypical librarian,
Sure.
wearing those.
Right.
So Madam Pince is just perfect.
Huh. So anyway,
yeah,
the kids don't know how to react to this.
Exactly. They have great reason to be worried about it.
I mean, Hermione is their rock. She is their moral compass. Like, Ron and Harry would be a mess if they didn't have Hermione helping them out, guiding them, being the mature one in the group, and also, like, helping steer them in the right direction, usually. Like, they rely on her more than they probably have given her credit for. And I think, like, this was the moment where they realized, we're on our own now, and this sucks because we need her so bad.
Yeah.
You know, knowing them, they're still in their heads going to be figuring this whole thing out for themselves. Like, they're going to be the ones to solve this problem. But now, without Hermione by their side, there's serious concern about what's going to happen with not only them, but Hogwarts.
Yep.
Because now Hogwarts is on lockdown. Lock it down. We have a curfew. Nobody's going anywhere. We need to keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
Right decision.
Absolutely.
But kind of scary also.
Yeah. I mean, when you're confined to basically one room for at least half the day, when you're not in classes, you basically just lost all of your freedom.
Yeah. So everybody's kind of freaking out. Everybody's on the edge, understandably so. We had one quote that I pulled out that I thought was fantastic. From my dear friend Lee Jordan, where he was getting very upset about the whole situation, and they were adding it up, and they were discovering that everybody that's been attacked has either been Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, or now Ravenclaw.
Yes.
No Slytherin's been attacked yet.
No.
This is troubling to many of the kids. And Lee Jordan shouts out, "Chuck all the Slytherins out."
Yep. I made a note about that too, because you have been saying that for the longest time as well.
And now somebody's starting to listen. Of course it's Lee Jordan.
Yep. Yeah, haven't any of the teachers noticed that the Slytherins are all safe? Isn't it obvious this stuff's all coming from Slytherin? The heir of Slytherin, the monster of Slytherin. Why don't they just chuck all the Slytherins out?
Yeah, mighty fine question. No answer for that one.
Nope.
So then everybody's on lockdown. Nobody's allowed to leave. But Ron and Harry have had enough now. They've been pushed to the brink. Their friend is now in danger. They need to act. They need to do something. And the only thing they could think of is confronting Hagrid on what Harry saw and getting to the bottom of his involvement with the Chamber of Secrets.
Yep.
And
he's
what
got to know something.
Do they use to get out of Hogwarts and make it to Hagrid's house?
We get the return of the invisibility cloak.
It's about freaking time.
It's what this title should have been. This chapter should have been titled
100%.
"Return of the Invisibility Cloak." But yeah, and to be perfectly honest, I think this situation right here is a big reason why it wasn't used earlier.
Yep.
Now, does it make sense logically? No, not necessarily. But does it make for better writing? Probably.
Sure. And it also allowed her, let's not sugarcoat it, to reacquaint the reading audience with how Harry came about this cloak and who it belonged to and why he has it and how he's used it before.
Yes.
She just can't help herself. when it comes to recaps.
Got to cover the bases.
I understand, but we're in chapter 14 of an 18-chapter book, and we're getting recaps from the first book still.
Well, if you didn't read the first book, you still wouldn't know about it because they haven't used it in this book. They haven't mentioned it.
Which is why it should have been mentioned before, so we didn't have to get to this pivotal moment in the story, like, super important, and we're just like, oh, before we actually tell you what happens, let's take a trip down memory lane and recount how this all came to be in the first place.
Fair enough.
Stop delaying this, J.K. Rowling. Let me have the story. At this point in the game, you need to stop calling timeouts. Just drawing it out for no reason. Anyway, I was happy it returned, Matt. I don't know if you could tell.
Yeah.
It's about time. Can I also point out how ridiculously scary and intimidating Hagrid would be with a giant crossbow?
Yeah, I mean, he's scary enough on his own because he's way bigger than any of these 12-year-olds. But, yeah, with a giant crossbow, yeah,
big time. So then things got weird.
They did?
Yeah. Hagrid welcomes Ron and Harry into his house. He's all flustered. He's a mess. He's dropping things. He's bumping things. He's still trying to be polite. He's offering him tea, like Hagrid does. He knows he's just acting strange. He's not acting like Hagrid, Something's up. I mean, Hagrid doesn't answer the door with a crossbow.
No.
That's not his normal thing. He's afraid of something. Or he's cautious about something, or he's preparing for something. I don't know what it is. I want to know, and you're not going to tell me.
Absolutely not.
But he's ready for something.
He is.
There's another knock at the door. Harry and Ron hide in the corner under the cloak. And in walks Dumbledore and the Riddler.
Yeah, more or less. I can see it.
The description of his outfit immediately took me to the Riddler from the 1960s Batman TV show.
Yep.
Am I crazy?
know what you're talking about. No,
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Maybe it's the green bowler hat.
That's the biggest part of it.
Sure.
Because I think the Riddler is typically in all green.
Yeah, but with some purple, and I think...
yeah, he might have like a purple mask or something.
Yeah, Cornelius Fudge had like pink shoes, I think, right? And pinstripes.
I think he had like a purple cloak, maybe?
Something. I don't know. A lot of colors going on. But the green bowler hat, I'm just like, really? Really?
Yeah,
this is a weird crossover.
It was a very prominent green bowler, lime green bowler hat.
Lime green, yeah.
Okay.
So what happens here, Matt?
Well, basically, the Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, has come to take Hagrid away. Yeah. Because things are happening again.
Mm-hmm.
They really, once again, don't go into too many specifics because all the adults know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So Ron and Harry don't get a lot more detail, but he's come to take Hagrid away, and as far as we can tell, he's taking him to Azkaban.
The wizard prison.
Yes.
Doesn't sound good. Still doesn't sound good.
No.
Still know nothing about it, Matt.
Yep.
But I know it's probably not a place people want to go.
Yes, that's one thing we have in common with the Muggle world, is prison is not a place you want to go.
That's just a blanket statement.
Whatever
kind of prison it is. So that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I don't like the sound of that at all.
No.
Hagrid's getting blamed for something again. Is he being punished for past crimes? What's going on, Matt? I don't. You gotta tell me what's going on.
I can't tell you. I can only tell you what we have here, and I mean, the weird part is, like, it sounds like Fudge doesn't completely necessarily believe that Hagrid is the source of the problems.
Right, but he needs to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which,
like basically right now, we obviously don't know whether or not Hagrid is the problem. But Fudge decided he needs a scapegoat. And Hagrid's the best he's got right now.
right. I don't like it. I don't like that one bit. But I'm not supposed to like it, I don't think.
No.
But just when you think it couldn't get any worse, Matt.
Another... What did actually knock at the door?
No, he just kind of strolled in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the creepy, scary man that he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lucius Malfoy. We learn a little bit more about him. That he is one of the governors. So I'm assuming this is probably more of a common British thing as well. Like, even in our schools, like, yeah, we have like board of directors and stuff like that, but we don't call them governors.
Right.
But I'm assuming that's essentially what this is.
Mm-hmm.
There are many governors that kind of watch over Hogwarts, and Lucius Malfoy is one of them. And he has somehow convinced them all that Dumbledore is not doing his job.
Matt, I've kind of been saying this for 2 books now. I've been concerned about this, right?
Yeah.
Apparently I wasn't the only one thinking this.
But at the same time, look who this is coming from.
I know, which makes me feel really bad about myself. Am I supposed to be in Slytherin? Because I got put in Hufflepuff, and I'm starting to question the Sorting Hat's ability to pick out Slytherin when he sees them coming.
Sure. But, I mean, when you look at it, the people he puts in Slytherin, he always gets right.
So far.
Yep.
He wants to take Dumbledore out of position of power.
Yes.
He wants to remove him from the headmaster position.
Yep.
Why does he want to do this? Is it really because he thinks that Dumbledore isn't doing his job? Because I feel like these attacks, at this point, probably can't be prevented. Now, does Dumbledore know something and he's not acting on it? Does he know that Hagrid's involved and he's been protecting Hagrid because Hagrid has always defended him? So he's trying to protect him and he just no longer can? I don't know. Is this all of this out of Dumbledore's, scope of what he's able to do as headmaster? Maybe Malfoy just doesn't like him. Maybe he wants to take over as headmaster. Maybe they are just clamoring to have a Slytherin take over as headmaster of Hogwarts. Because wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard Draco go off about how he doesn't really care for Dumbledore, and his father thinks he's running the school wrong, and that, I mean, if they had their way, only purebloods would be let into the school.
Right.
None of these mudbloods.
Right. Definitely not the mudbloods.
So, like, he definitely has a difference of opinion, because Draco didn't come up with these opinions on his own. He learned them from his father, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lucius, at this point, has enough power that he is one of the governors himself, and obviously, okay, so the way he puts it, dreadful thing, Dumbledore, but the governors feel it's time for you to step aside. This is an order of suspension. You'll find all 12 signatures on it. I'm afraid we feel you're losing your touch. But I did like Fudge, as bumbling as he is right now, even he agrees that that's the last thing we want right now.
Right.
And where is
anyone qualified of running Hogwarts at this point? I don't know how they select new headmasters. I don't know what happened to the previous headmaster that was dealing with all of this 50 years ago when it all happened before. Did he die? Is that the only way to usually be removed from headmaster, and then somebody else takes their place? Is there a voting process? How is all of this sorted? I need to know about the politics that goes into selecting a headmaster at Hogwarts. But I feel pretty confident in saying there aren't very many people qualified enough to run Hogwarts. Maybe Professor McGonagall. I feel like she has a little something in her. Other than that, I'm sure Snape would love to take over. That's his dream job right there.
We do know a couple of things here.
Okay. Stop me, Matt. Stop me.
So it says, first of all, I want to point out Fudge then also goes on, see here, Malfoy, if Dumbledore can't stop them, I mean to say who can.
Mm-hmm.
So in his mind, Dumbledore is the best man for the job.
Yeah.
He's most qualified as far as he knows. And he doesn't think there is anybody that can do anything about it, especially if Dumbledore can't.
Right.
Malfoy does actually tell us that the appointment or suspension of the headmaster is a matter for the governors.
Okay.
So the governors are the ones who actually appoint the headmaster.
Okay. Is it voting? Is it majority? Does it have to be unanimous? Like, I want to know the minutia of this.
That much I don't know at this point. And it could be different for the appointment or suspension. The suspension, it sounds like it needs to be unanimous.
Right.
Because he makes a point of, I have all 12 signatures.
Yep.
And of course then Hagrid. Yeah. And how many did you have to threaten and blackmail before they agreed?
Right.
So they're all kind of on the same page here. It's like, okay, you have 12 signatures, but they might as well be forgeries because
right.
You know, at least some of the other governors believe Dumbledore should be there.
Sure.
Believe he's the best man for the job. That's why they appointed him.
Yep.
But the problem is Malfoy has so much power.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow he knows too much about them one way or another that he can get them to ultimately suspend Dumbledore.
Right. I don't like any of this.
Yeah, it's going downhill fast.
Oh boy, is it ever. And then, just as I feel like we're about to get some answers, Matt.
We get to my final note of the chapter, titled Cryptic Messages.
Are you kidding me? In my notes, all I just put, are you kidding me? Like, one of these days, I feel like we're just going to end a chapter, and I'll feel like this sigh of relief of, we settled something. I don't think that's happening for another 4 chapters.
Sure.
Sadly.
All right. Okay. We'll finish this up first, and then I'll give you some sage advice. I don't know.
Okay.
So, Dumbledore's words of advice. However, you will find that I will only truly have left this school when none here are loyal to me. You will also find that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it.
That is a very interesting line.
It is. And even more disconcerting when he seems to look into an empty corner.
Right.
While he's doing this.
Mm-hmm. Is he trying to convince young Mr. Potter that it's about time that he finally asks for the help that he needs? Is Dumbledore not doing anything because he hasn't been specifically asked to do anything yet? Is that how this works?
Is this
like
a teachable
Simon
moment?
says? A teachable moment? Definitely. I feel like everything Dumbledore is probably doing is a teachable moment.
Sure.
But is it like Simon Says, where he can't act unless, somebody says, Simon Says, Dumbledore, please take care of this mess?
That you get a spell put on you when you become headmaster and you can't do anything unless someone asks you to?
Right. I don't know. I don't know how this works.
Yeah. And then Hagrid's infamous cryptic message trying to follow suit of Dumbledore, but obviously in a very Hagrid manner. If anyone wanted to find out some stuff, all they'd have to do is to follow the spiders.
Nobody wants to follow the spiders, Hagrid. Don't try to talk these little kids into following those nasty, vile creatures. Sure, maybe there's answers. But maybe it's just a giant spider nest. Maybe bad things are waiting for them.
But if Hagrid told them to...
Hagrid's about to go to prison. He's saying all kinds of delusional stuff right now. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm not following spiders.
Did Hagrid open the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago?
Don't know.
If you're Ron and Harry, you still don't know.
You know what I would do?
What would you do?
I would get Neville Longbottom to go follow the spiders.
But then you know something bad is going to happen.
Oh, yeah, but at least it's going to happen to him, which is bound to happen anyway. Just delaying the inevitable by not having him go.
All right.
I don't know what to think, Matt. We have 4 more chapters left. My head is a mess right now.
I believe it.
Yeah. There's at this point in time, I feel like the entire jigsaw puzzle is laid out on the table. I feel like every piece I need is out here in front of me. And I probably have like 2 of the borders done and completed. I don't have all 4 corners connected yet, right?
No.
Not even close to having the entire middle put together. But I feel like everything I need is right here in front of me. I just don't know how to mix it all together and make it happen.
Yeah, I think at this point you would have to make some assumptions.
Yeah.
But if you made the correct assumptions with the pieces you have, you'd probably get pretty close.
Sure. I know Dobby's involved. I know Hagrid is involved in ways that we probably don't see coming. Dumbledore knows more than he's leading on. I unfortunately have to think Lockhart is involved in some way, shape, or form because he has been in this book the entire time. He will not leave this story. And I want him to. I want him to be gone. Why is he in this book so much? I hate him so much. We don't talk about the other teachers nearly as much as we do him. And granted, he has added to some plot points, but mostly he is just ridiculous. And why is he so ridiculous? Why is he such a focal point of this book? Does he have anything to do with any of this? Is he Tom Riddle? Oh God, you brought that up at the beginning of the podcast, and now I just remembered that horrible, horrible theory of yours. And now I can't stop thinking about it. I don't... there's so many things going on. I don't know. 4 chapters left, Matt.
So, the good news I'm going to give you is that you will not have to wait for 4 chapters. some of the big important questions that you've been wondering about and waiting to get answers on will be answered next week.
Oh, thank goodness.
There will be some relief.
Okay. I can't keep this going for another 2 weeks.
So yes, get excited to read for next week.
I am. I might go read tonight.
I'm okay with that.
Then we'll turn around and record again. Tales from Godric's Hollow After Dark.
Yes.
Okay, Matt. Do we have any emails? Do we have anything else we need to do?
Oh yeah, we have a couple things.
All right.
First, I believe we have a giveaway.
Yes, we do.
And this was a giveaway you came up with this time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can find my entries here.
Sure. We are going to give away a Lego Harry Potter collection video game for the PS4. Just came out a couple weeks ago. From what Matt says, it's a fantastic game. From what I know, there's at least one point when you get to denome a garden, and that's enough for me, my friends. I can't wait to play this game. I cannot play this game.
Yep, they give away too much. Sorry.
So if I can't play it, I might as well let somebody else play it and have fun with it until I can jump in myself. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to give one away. We talked about it last week on the show. All we had to do was submit a review on iTunes for this very podcast. Reviews help this podcast get noticed. It helps us gain a bigger listening audience. It makes our community reach farther and stronger, and that benefits everybody. So every review definitely helps us, and it helps you, the listening audience, tenfold. So thank you for everybody that has been leaving reviews, whether it's because of you were enticed to for the giveaways, or just because you really appreciated what we're doing here. We really do thank you for doing that, because it is, you do have to put a little bit of time and effort into doing that, especially for the giveaway, where you have to then, after the review, send Matt an email.
Yeah. So on that, I want to give people a little tip here, because I've had a few people like write a review and then say, "Oh, it didn't show up on iTunes, so how do I do this?" Like, so here's the tip. While you're writing a review, before you hit the submit button, take a screenshot right then and there,
Perfect.
and send that to me in the email. Because yes, iTunes reviews do not always show up right away. They will show up within like 24 to 48 hours. I haven't seen anybody's that didn't show up. They all do eventually.
Sure.
And I mean, yeah, you can send me a screenshot after the fact, but then there's going to be other people's reviews on there too, and it gets a little confusing. So the easiest way and the fastest way is to write as you're writing it. Once you type your final word, before you hit the submit button, take a screenshot of your review right then and there and send that to me.
Yep. Perfect. So we need to pick a winner.
Yes. So I currently have 19 emails.
Okay. And, reminder, if you had submitted one before for previous giveaways, your entry is still valid for this giveaway, unless you were a winner of a past giveaway. Then you are not eligible to win this, because you already got an awesome prize. So everybody that had entered before for other ones is eligible for this. If you do happen to win and you don't have a PS4 or you don't have interest in this game, let us know. We could do something else with it. You can give it to somebody else that has a PS4 if you want. We can donate it to somebody else. We could do whatever you want with it. So definitely, know that there are options open. If you do happen to win this, you had entered for a previous giveaway and you don't have any use for it.
In my mind, Christmas is coming. It'll be here sooner than you think. So
yeah,
that's what I would do with it if I didn't need it.
Okay.
Anyway,
let's pick somebody, Matt.
19. What's the lucky number today?
The lucky number today is number 14. Based on chapter 14 and February 14th being Valentine's Day.
Well, shoot. Number 14 on my list is actually someone who's won already.
Matt, you had one job. Okay, well, let's not do chapter 14 then. You gotta make me pick a different number.
Yep.
Okay, 14 is not eligible to win. Is there another number that's not eligible to win, Matt?
I suppose in theory there should be. Let's see who. Oh no, cause. Well, actually. Oh yes.
Okay.
Here it is. It'll be 13 is out as well.
Whew. It's a good thing I wasn't gonna go 13 then. Let's go. Matt, how many legs does a spider have?
8.
There's your answer.
So, lucky number 8 is Lauren Aragon.
All right. Well, congratulations, Lauren.
Yeah. Thank you for the review.
Absolutely. What did that review say, Matt?
That review is titled Love It. This is a great way to dive back into my favorite books, Harry Potter. Enjoy listening to someone experiencing this incredible story for the first time. Makes me think back to my first time through the books about 15 years ago.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you,
glad you're
Lauren.
enjoying it. So, Lauren, get a hold of us.
Yeah.
You can send a direct message on Twitter at TalesFromGH, or you can send an email in. Matt will pass it along. If you go that route, either way, get a hold of us, and we will figure out the details of getting you the copy of that video game.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Speaking of emails, Matt.
Speaking of emails, we do have some emails today. Our big email is, of course, from our weekly write-in, Atari Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Doing so well here. Dear Josh and Matt, I think it is safe to say that after the events of the last 2 chapters, the plot has indeed thickened.
Safe to say.
But before I go into that, we need to talk about mandrakes.
Yes.
They get acne. I feel their pain. They get moody and secretive. I've been there. They throw wild parties. Turn up. They are capable of moving between pots, presumably on little mandrake feet, thus necessitating the need for little mandrake socks during the cold winter months. I can dig it. So, how the bloody hell does Professor Sprout take care of these conscious living plants, watching them go from babies to adolescents to full-on adults, and get super happy about killing them and making them into a potion? Sure, people are way more important than plants, but you would think that there'd be at least a little bit guilty. She might would be at least a little bit guilty about it. She might be the true evil in this story.
I'm gonna take a stab in the dark here and say my friend Alex does not have any kids, or if he does, they are not of the teenage variety. Let me tell you about being a parent of a teenager, Matt.
Yeah? How's that go?
You don't really do much. You just sit back and just let it happen. Like, there's not a lot you could do to parent a teenager. You have to be there for moral support, sure. You have to try to put on your parental hat and throw down some guidelines and some rules and regulations, knowing full well they're probably not going to listen. And if they do, they're going to be extremely moody about it. You try your best, but ultimately you just have to ride it out until it all goes away.
Yeah.
Now, once they mature, you're not killing your kids, right? But you're doing the next best thing, and you're kicking them out of the house so they can go live in the real world by themselves. That's almost the equivalent of harvesting a mandrake when they're mature.
I guess you could say that, yeah. That's a little twist on it, but sure, I'll take it. Anywho, when I was reading chapter 13, I was struck by how magical Riddle's diary is. I would venture to say that is the most powerful magical object we have seen up to this point in the series, and probably one of the most powerful objects introduced throughout all 7 books. We have seen normal items that have been enchanted to have special properties, like the enchanted car or the Nimbus 2000. But this diary goes far beyond that. It has the power to think and write and draw a human into one of its memories. And that's just what we know about so far. Jumping ahead to the scene in Hagrid's cabin, we get a pitiful introduction to the most politically powerful wizard in England. Fudge is basically portrayed as a whimpering coward who, like any good politician, is more concerned about covering his own rear end than anything else. Lucius Malfoy completely walks all over him, addressing him as Fudge rather than Minister, dismissing his feeble protests, and asserting dominance over the situation to make poor Cornelius the least important person in the room. And he wears a lime green bowler hat.
That's why he's not getting respect. Let's be real.
It finishes off with Josh, hold on to your sorting hat, because the next few chapters are only going to get more intense from here.
I can't handle it. I'm ready and not ready at the same time.
You can.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. I agree, though. Like, Fudge, he was completely walked all over. Like,
yeah.
He's trying to be the diplomat here. He's trying to do something because he feels like he needs to. I don't think what he's doing is really what he feels comfortable with. Because he knows there's probably other things at stake here. There's some other forces that are influencing some things. He's doing his best from the outside looking in. You know, he's not there. He's not experiencing what's going on. But he has to do something. He can't sit by idly either at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
All right, and then one more shorter email. It's actually sent in as an entry for the review, but I did have a few other comments that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
So this is from Rihanna, maybe?
Sounds right.
Probably.
Sure.
As I said in the review, I'm enjoying the podcast. I clean as one of my incomes, so I have hours of free time each week to listen to different content. Since I've already listened to Harry Potter audiobooks completely through twice in the last year, I needed another Harry Potter nerd outlet and went and searched for a podcast and found yours. The best and only one out there. She also says that I listened to the episode where you guys were in Seattle, and I'm just a few hours north on Whidbey Island.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know where that is?
Yep. Uh-huh.
I have no idea, but yeah. So she thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I'm down in Vancouver. Hi.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have for this week, though.
Matt, did you know this is the #1 Harry Potter podcast for cleaners?
I do now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going on my resume.
Perfect.
Yeah. She's going to love this episode.
Absolutely.
2.5 hours of goodness.
Yeah. Get you through half a shift.
Yeah. Matt, thank you so much. This was a night. This was a journey we went on. Thank you, Mandrakes.
I knew it was coming, but it's so good. I've been looking for. I can't tell you how much I look forward to these Monday nights now.
Especially because you know ahead of time what you've gotten me into.
Yep.
You know where we left off. You know what's going to be happening. Like, I just picture you sitting there just thumbing through the next chapters and you're just like, ha, 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 ha. This is going to be great.
Yep.
Your maniacal laugh. Next week, of course, we'll be tackling chapters 15 and 16 of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I'm ready. I am so ready for some answers, Matt.
We'll get you those answers.
You better. You better, my friend. You can find me personally on Twitter at The Noise. And be sure to follow the show on Twitter, where we have the weekly Muggle poll, any changes that may happen with our recording schedule, and I'll sometimes tweet out things that I see that revolve around the Harry Potter franchise that I find entertaining and fascinating. So that's on Twitter at Tales from GH. And Matt, I teased it earlier in the show. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the movie.
Yeah.
We've gone back and forth here on my concerns, about your concerns, about me watching the film. Guess what I realized?
What's that?
I am going to be down at Disneyland when this movie releases.
Really?
So you will have...
I'll have a couple days.
All weekend. We will be down there. We're leaving Wednesday night. We're not coming back until Monday.
I can tear this movie apart.
You could watch it several times over before I even have any possibility of watching it.
Well, as much as it sucks that you won't be able to watch it, even if I approve it,
right?
Like that does let me relax a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. You don't have to immediately respond to my flurry of texts that night of release. So
yes.
Also, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but let's just put it out there that there's a possibility that we might have some time to check out a little place called the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Now imagine me going back to this place just a few months after my first journey there.
Yep.
With all of this knowledge now and all of these feels and emotions and connections to the world. I'm not saying it's going to happen, Matt, but I'm saying there's a chance.
All right.
And I'll be thinking of you the entire time, my friend.
Have a butterbeer for me.
Oh, you at least one. That's a minimum. That's drinking minimum requirements.
Yes.
With that being said, Matt, where can people find you on Twitter and such?
You can find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. And if you want to get a hold of the show, or if you're sending in your screenshot of the review for future contests that we have, you can send that all to talesfromgodrichollow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. We appreciate those very much. We love hearing from you guys. It's a lot of fun to know what we're doing, is enjoyed by others, because I don't know if you can tell or not, we kind of love doing this. It's kind of a thing.
It's true.
Yeah. But next week, it's going to be something else. I already have a feeling. So stay tuned for that. But until next time, Muggle out. And party on with the mandrakes.
Mischief managed.